friends, it's Romania Black, and we are on episode 7 of Lord of the Mysteries. So here's the deal. I don't normally wear my hair up. This is like a rare occurrence on my channel, but I had an event super early this morning that ended up not being as long as I thought it was going to be, and I put my hair up because I thought it was going to be humid, and then it was not bad, and so then I wore this outfit, had my hair up, and then I got home, and I tried to take my hair down, and it just looked like I put it up when it was kind of wet, and it looked like a poodle, so I had like big poodle balls, and then it was just like flat poof, and it looked atrocious. I looked like a mad scientist, so I was like, nope, put that back up. I wanted to wear this for Lord of the Mysteries because it felt very steampunk Victorian, which kind of fit the vibe, so here we are. So this is a rare occurrence of Romania with her hair up, so don't get used to it. But yeah, we are on episode 7, and I've got a lot of comments to go to. I've got a lot of comments, a few for episode 5, a lot for episode 6 to get through with you all from both Patreon and YouTube. I'm caught up on comments. It is a rare occurrence. And I also have a poster from episode 6 and some translated images from episode 6 to show you all. So I'm actually caught up for once on all the comments on everything before starting this episode, mainly because I had to wait to record this until I was not only feeling 100%, but also like had time to sit down and record this. Because let's be honest, if I'm gonna watch Lord of the Mysteries, it's gonna have to involve it's gonna have to involve me dedicating and keeping like a 2 to 3 hour block open in my schedule to do everything. And that is right now at this time of month, a rare occurrence for Romania. So I have been keeping my calendar open, and today was the day. So with that being said, we are going to be talking about these comments and going through a couple things. It will be time-stamped if you want to avoid this or skip through it. But there were a lot of comments from y'all, and I feel like they need to be talked about before we dive into this. So for episode 5, I have 2. Nanacon8733 said, in fact, there really was a word written in Chinese, Emperor Rozel's hidden text, on the amulet, but it said something like idiot or stupid, so feels like it was just like a prank, and that's why Klein was like, yeah, let's not choose that one. And then Algae Malgium had a comment for both episode 5 and episode 6. We'll do the episode 5 one first. They said, I believe Triss is in the underground market looking for ingredients. He just received the potion formula for witch, so he's looking to brew it. Very much like a witch brewing potions. I guess I told Algae Malgium that I had in my mind when Triss got the potion, I assumed it was just the whole thing. Like the briefcase had the entire potion like in a little bottle that was ready to go, and that the lady was just giving it to Triss. But I didn't realize that it was just the formula. But that makes sense. Hauling around an entire bottle of a like God-creating potion does seem a bit dangerous. So then they said, during the reaction, you asked how they could shoot ghosts. They have special bullets. They're akin to the one-use talismans you've seen before. Depending on which rituals are used to enhance the bullets, they can have different effects. How you all know this? I'm assuming it's from the novel, because I'm going through O'Neill's notes. I'm going through everything. How you all are aware of these things that I have no clue of yet. I'm just imagining you've read the novel, or you went to Reddit and people were talking about it. So that's all I can assume. So that's all of episode 5. But then Algae Malgum, along with Air Fan Astadi 5452, said for episode 6, per the show in Old Neil's classroom, looking directly at a deity is dangerous. Yes, we did talk about that. Since they have divinity, looking at them forces mystical knowledge into one's mind, body, or being, which in most cases would result in your death, a mutation, or going mad. Klein looked at the eternal blazing sun through a divination. Now, I didn't understand exactly, because some other people have been commenting about this as well, but Algae Malgum explained it really nicely, so I kind of like the way that they did it the most. They said that as a seer, part of his Beyonder abilities is to retain and interpret revelations he gets through divination, such as symbolic meanings. For a rather clunky analogy, it's like he has expert-level media literacy when it comes to stuff he divines. I'm all about that. Because his looking at the eternal blazing sun happened through a divination, and the fog protected him from the backlash, which we saw, his seer ability allows him to translate and interpret the mystical information that would have otherwise killed him, which the show rendered as the writing showing up on his skin. Okay, that part makes a lot of sense, and why he saw the unshadowed, like he saw the sequence pathway be listed. I liked the concept. It kind of is like he looked directly at the sun in real life, but he did so with 2 layers of eye protection, similar to how one needs special glasses to look at and study the sun during an eclipse. I thought that's pretty cool. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I appreciate that. So thank you for explaining it. Klein certainly chose a very good pathway. That's all I'm going to say. He was wise to take that advice, right? Several people, Coin Gambit, Truck, A Kung Fu Chicken, they all said in episode 6 that the mandated punishers and the machinery hive mind are not necessarily connected. They were just joining forces in the operation against Triss, aka Trissy, because of how critical it was. Leonard is not working with either group. Good to know. That makes more sense after the translation. I'm glad to know that. No Cover, along with Captain Kappa 4, said for episode 6, slight correction. The primordial demoness is believed to be an heir of the original creator, as in the guy from the myth creation. The true creator is the evil hanging one. His people, the Aurora Order, similarly believe that he is also the heir of the original creator. So basically you have the primordial demoness is believed by their group to be the heir, and then with the Aurora Order, they believe that the hanged one, or the true creator, is also the heir of the original creator. You know, just conflicting, dueling deities. Why not? Dueling deities, who never heard of them. Captain Kappa 4 says, if you remember in episode 2 when they mentioned the creation myth, the creator's eyes became the sun, the eternal blazing sun, and the moon, the Evernight goddess, and so on. So the true creator taking on that name is sort of like saying, actually, all the other gods are part of me and I'm the best god, which of course anyone else would consider to be blasphemy. I thought about something when Captain Kappa said this. I thought about something and we're just going to file it away for now. But one, with the whole true creator thing, that makes a lot of sense. The people believing in the true creator thinks that he's the one that's like, I have all the gods inside of me. That's a pretty big thing to say, to be fair. But I thought about this. Klein is working for the Evernight goddess, and he is a seer, which is part of her pathway. But with the help of the fog, he's been tapping into the eternal sun, the sun pathway. So he's kind of like, if Klein is in fact, like, is Klein slowly becoming the creator himself because he's tapping into the Evernight goddess powers as well as the eternal sun? So he's kind of getting like his 2 eyes lined up with those 2 deities. I'm just saying that's an interesting coincidence. It's an interesting coincidence. I'm just throwing it out there. Just file it away from now. We'll see. Tiny Truck for episode 6 says, the reason why Klein got that writing on his skin was because, as old Neil explained at the end of his class, when someone looks directly at God, they'll be overwhelmed by immense concentration of information and divine laws. Normally, people die. But because of the gray fog, Klein somehow didn't. He was able to keep and understand some of the information, which the Donghua visualized with writing on his skin. Yeah, so again, Klein is very lucky. He not only got to witness a sequenced path of a pathway that he's not associated with, but he got to keep that information and he didn't die from it. So yeah. Four Sunsets had a big long post about the military military in China versus Korea. But before that, they said the reason why the group had to have shifts for the sun charm is if you are out of the 15-meter radius of the effect range, the countdown for becoming idiots resets. So if they take shifts every 2 hours, all of them can have time to reset the countdown time and leave enough of a buffer in case of emergencies where they're forced to spend more time close to the charm. It also makes sense that the Evernight cloth couldn't suppress the sun charm because the eternal blazing sun is the opposite of the Evernight. That makes sense. Thank you for explaining that. They also said military training in China is not the same as military service in Korea. It's just a 2-week training that takes place before the first year of middle school, before the first year in high school, and before the first year in the university. All students participate, and it's not mandatory or as harsh as Korean service. The content of military training is usually light martial arts, self-defense training, plus lots of marching and discipline drills, nothing too serious. Military service in China, on the other hand, it has very strict requirements. People have to voluntarily apply if they want to join and undergo screening for physical qualities, age, height, eyesight, stamina, weight, no tattoos, etc., and a background check, their education level, no criminal records within 3 generations of the family. That's wild. No foreign members within immediate family members. Oh, that's also wild. If you meet all the criteria, you must participate in the military service for 2 years, after which you can either retire from service or become an actual soldier. Interesting. If the requirements are so strict, I mean, I don't know what the benefits are. I don't know. I don't question. The closest military that my family has is my grandfather, and that was back in World War II, so that's been a while. So interesting. But good to know for Klein. That's good to establish that with Klein. Alexander Q said, I have to wonder if all the sequences reach a certain level of immortality, like AZIC, or if it's particular to his pathway. It would make sense that the closer you get to higher sequences, you become so powerful that you're basically immortal. But I can see it being a perk of the corpse collector pathway. Yeah, I guess I assumed it without assuming it. But it's like, it kind of makes sense. Like when they were talking about the path of the divine and you're getting enough powers to become a god, immortality, if you think about it, would align with that pretty easily. But I think it's interesting now that at least with the corpse collector pathway, there's this idea that, yeah, you can become immortal, but you're also going to have an army of the dead follow you, and you're going to bring like deathly bad luck to everyone around you. That seems like it's more tied to the corpse collector pathway, but maybe each pathway, and I'm just theorizing, maybe each pathway has a route to immortality, but that route comes with a steep price. We'll see. We'll see. We'll possibly see. But that is an interesting concept to bring up. And then Anime Annie says, I think out of all the gods, based on what O'Neill says, I would choose the Lord of Storms. Being a neutral party most of the time, but doling out recompense. Yes. When crossed sounds the best to me. I told Anime Annie, I was like, I need to think about like which of the deities would I choose? I don't know. The one that the apothecaries are tied to, that one sounds fascinating, but that one sounds like very like creationism sort of thing. But I don't know. I feel like I need to see all of them and know what they're all tied to before I can make a judgment on that. But yeah. I don't know if the Lord of Storms would fit for me, but I think that's so interesting. So then Truck has a couple things to share with you all before we dive into this episode. The poster for episode 6, I love it. It's got all of the maps, the papers, the crows, and then there's like the clock behind them. There's AZIC with the lantern, which is like of knowledge, and then Klein has the book, and then you see like AZIC with the sword stuck in him from the body of the pile of the corpses, and like his shadow is blood red. It's so good. It's not my favorite poster of all 6 so far, but it's like my top 3. It's really, really good. I like this one a lot. And then Truck has translations for the pages that we need translations for from episode 6. So this first one says, on August 18th, I guess it's journal entry. Miss Elizabeth came seeking divination to interpret her dreams. She's been tormented by nightmares since returning from the town of Lamood. We resolved to venture into the abandoned castle to search for vengeful spirits. So when they ran into the Wraith, who ends up being Azic's son, that was from Lamood, which he was the lord of. So that all checks in. Then we have Azic picked out this book from the bookshelf that says, A Study of the Ancient Ruins of the Main Peak of the Hornatius Mountain Range. Study of Ancient Ruins. Yeah, this stupid mountain range is getting to be the point of the story. Like, we're getting there. And then this one says something about located from afar. It seems a fairy, like ARG, something in earth, heaven and earth. The mountain peaks are undulating. Look, something mist, veil, like standing tall. Spectacular between each. It's just, that's not fair. That's not fair to give us these little pieces of text but not show us the full thing. How dare. It says this country have found in the entire area, giving people a strange illusion that their residents do not need to be buried and may not even die. I don't know. Sounds like if they all became Beyonders and then lost control, I don't know. That's going to be interesting. And then there's this one that shows a clock, standard clock. Although, yeah, the clock on there. And then we have the Moretti mailbox that says to Daffodil Street. Daffodil Street's so quaint and whimsical. Love it. And then finally we have this charm, the Requiem charm. It says, working together with Zishuri, this is our best guess for the Hermes on the Requiem charm. And it says that there's this FHG, which is Fei Hong, which is crimson, and then onghong, which is quell turmoil. Oh, crimson to quell turmoil. Nice. Okay, we have crimson calm, internal conflict, discord. Y'all, yeah, Anime Annie posted that people are going to have like Tolkien had people getting degrees in Elvish. Y'all are going to be getting degrees in Hermes. That's so crazy. That's just, the English teacher in me is just baffled that, languages are usually community constructs, and for single individuals to create these like individual languages is just, it's wild. It's wild. So anyway, so I am excited to dive into episode 7. Episode 6 was such a standalone episode that I'm like, okay, where do we go from here? Azek was just, now that we know Azek's not, a bad guy per se, what do we do with that information? So I guess we're going to find out, right? Okay, so I'm going to have to record if we have any chibis and any old Neil classrooms. I'm going to have to record that separate, so you may see a jump between the end of this reaction into those shorts, just for some scheduling things I'm working with, but we're not going to waste any more time. You'll see it in the link down below regardless. I'm just letting you know if there's a jump, you're like, why was that? Then you'll know. It's just some behind the Aussian curtain business. So we're going to start episode 7 of Lord of Mysteries, and we are going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. Oh, all right. Now that we've had Azek, let's see what else we got. Oh, what? This whole thing? So yeah, okay. But anyway, so yeah, we're back. Luckily, old Neil, his lessons were surprisingly not as intense and dense as they were last week. But then again, I wrote a lot last week and there was a lot and my head was spinning. This week is, the episode itself is giving us more information than anything. So I wrote out like spirit channeling. So we're going to go through that and how that works. We've got the spectator pathway, which I have some thoughts about with that one. And then we have a whole new thing about characters. We have some connections that I'm going to theorize about. And then Klein's whole spiel of him trying to put everything together. We've gone beyond Whiteboard Coon. We've gone to Notebook Chan to get like some extra things, because I was like, everything I write on this board ends up going over on Conspiracy Board Sama on notebook paper. So I was like, I'm just going to bypass writing on Whiteboard Coon because I'm going to have to transcribe it anyway to put it on Conspiracy Board Sama that will eventually end up in Binder Coon. So I'm like, so I just went ahead and wrote it out. And when we get to it, we'll get to it. But I'm just like, that's literally how I feel after this episode. But this episode is surprisingly ominous, and it didn't come across that way, but I was like, oh, there's lots of things that weren't explained. There are lots of things happening. There's potentially demon babies. I'm just like, show, cuttlefish, what we do in Cuttlefish. So anyway, let's get started talking about this episode as a whole, because I have a feeling I'm going to be writing lots of things out as we discuss through it. So here in 3, 2, 1, let's talk through what we're going to get here. And we just need to bypass this special tree. The moment they started showing credits, I was like, oh, that's a lot. They're showing like opening credits. Maybe they've always done it. I don't know. But so yeah, Azek is going on his way. I'm glad Azek is an ally. Ally Azek is better than antagonist Azek. That's for dang sure. And he's like, if there's anything you'd like to know, just ask. And Klein's like, hey, I hate to ask you right off the bat, but these erratic fluctuations in my fate is such a tongue twister. And I'm like, but accurate, where he's like, hey, all these things happening to me since I transmigrated here are kind of crazy. So, and the thing about it is, I don't blame Klein for thinking that way, because it's not like he because if he had just transmigrated into like any random person, then it wouldn't have been a thing. But the fact that he transmigrated into Klein Moretti, who is tied to this Antigonus family notebook, there is something else going on here, and Klein was like a central character in it all. And so whether he was innocent or guilty doesn't matter, he's dead. So Joe, aka New Klein, aka the Klein as we know him, is like, I'm just trying to figure out like, how deep am I in this? Because I feel like I'm pretty deep. He's like, do you still see them now? And Azek is like, in the last 2 to 3 months, have you noticed a lot of coincidences? And it's like, yeah, the plot of the story. That's been our coincidences. He's like, maybe there are clues hidden within them. I felt like this was kind of tying to the apothecary timeline, seeing these plants or the pathways. I'm really excited to get into the apothecaries. I'm really excited. But yeah, he's like an item that you mentioned on your previous visit. And he's like, the Antigonus family notebook. I also like the idea that Azek doesn't exactly know what all is going on. Azek just knows what Klein has told him. And then we see this flashback. So we see the notebook being exchanged with the one guy as he's taking it away. Yep, we saw that, and Vincent and him had met. So he gave the potion, I'm assuming, for the clown to this guy who we find out his name's Sirius. Yeah. Sirius turns out to... I didn't anticipate this guy dying in this episode. It was rather sudden that he lost control, but that also is kind of ominous in itself because it did not take much between him being in the library and him trying to attack Klein to transform and lose control. So the fact that it happened so sudden makes me very nervous that it could happen just as suddenly with anybody else. But that is assuming that they don't know how to use the Beyonder powers that they've been given. So anyway, back to the city. So it's Monday, August 20th. It's been like 2 days since the whole business with Azek. And we're back at Blackthorn. I'm glad nothing was wrong with old Neil, because when old Neil was having the constipation issues, and when he first showed up, I thought he'd been possessed. I'm like, we can't have old Neil dying anytime soon. For the record, the mods have shared with me a file folder that have all the chibi shorts and the old Neil classes. I don't exactly know. It's just like, it's like LOTM shorts, and it's like episode 1, episode 2, and then when I click it, it shows me if there's a chibi or an old Neil class. Today, when I opened it up, it was just the old Neil class. No chibi. Sad days. But I told the mods, I was like, hey, I've noticed that there's none for episode 9, 12, or 13. And the mods were like, no. And I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do without old Neil. I need old Neil. I've become quite codependent with old Neil. So I'm like, 3 episodes where I don't get help? That's going to be daunting and dangerous. I don't like that. So those episodes are going to be fun. But yeah, we'll see. So yeah, we meet lots of new characters. For the record, I don't want to go back to this. Freaking Donghua food. I thought anime food was appealing. This is like, it's not, the thing is, it's not AI. It's legit. And I'm like, I want all of that. Specifically that key lime business at the top. I can't have chocolate because I'm allergic to cocoa. But the key lime business, anything with the white chocolate or marshmallow on it, that thing that's got the marshmallow fluff, or the cream with the nuts on top of it. I want that. But yeah, so all of that looks amazing. We get to meet some new characters that are part of the Nighthawks. This guy, Kinley. Freaking what? Kinley gets engaged. Well, good. One man off the market for Leonard. Leonard's competition has dwindled. Another man down. So we meet Kinley. And I don't think we get to find out what pathway Kinley is on. I don't think that we do. But yeah, Kinley. And Neil's like, engaged? Congratulations, Kinley. At last, the Tengen Nighthawks are finally breaking the curse of not finding romance. I love that, like, Leonard and Dunn are over here in front of him, like, not for lack of trying. Here's the thing. I 100% ship Dolly and Dunn. I totally think they have a thing for each other, but I think that Dunn is so friggin' professional. Not only is Dunn so friggin' professional, but Dunn is convinced that he's gonna die at any minute, like all the people he's watched die in the Nighthawks, that he's like, I don't have time for romance. And Dolly's like, I'm just waiting until he's a corpse. So that's what's struggling them. And then Leonard's just a whore. Who has attached on to Klein. So, you know, he's like, Leonard's like, we're going to talk about Leonard and romance. We're going to talk about that real quick. But yeah, so then we have a Midnight Poet ourselves. So we have Sika Tron, whose name is amazing. Sika Tron, she looks like a character in Tron. And she is a Sequence 8 Sleepless. So she is a sequence 8 sleepless midnight poet. She's just like Leonard, so that's cool. Nice. Glad to see her there. She has a really cool design. I feel like white-haired characters in media are a little bit, like, eccentric. And she's like, it's a 1,000-year bloodline curse. A demon hunter falls for a ravishing witch. An extraordinarily tragic and painful romance. Yeah, and Klein's like, okay, that's cool. And then Leonard shows up. Oh, my God. Leonard just happens to go flirting around Klein. The workday romance brings joy and satisfaction and stirs my hearts with poems. I love that these ladies are like, you can't write poems. And he's like, look, listen, the fact that Leonard is such a snack, such a, what's the word I'm trying to look for? He's such a catch. There we go. I was like, going to say snatch. And I'm like, that's not right. He's such a catch, but none of the women in the Nighthawks care for him. Girls, your loss. Let Klein have him. I feel like it's a sign. I love that expression that he gives, though. So, anyways, like on a day like this, she's like, we could just call it a holiday and go drink wine together. She's like, we could just go and dine and drink wine together. I'm like, does Fry have a thing for her? Are all of these people in Nighthawks just repressing their romantic tendencies? Because they need to probably get on that. Done. Let them get on that. We know you want to be with Dolly. So, yeah. So we get the idea. Sika and Kinley. We don't get to know what Kinley is unless we found out previously. I cannot see the character sheet to know for sure. I have to go back and look at that. They're going to go. So Sika and Kinley, they're going to the West Borough. They're going to go to the West Borough and the Golden Indus areas. And Golden Indus, that's where they are off to. And then we have, what does Dunn say next? He's like, Fry and I will patrol the Northern Borough and the Raphael Cemetery. But he also says that Klein's going to be there. So, or he puts Klein in charge of the gate. So, meanwhile, we're just going to put out here to the side that Dunn and Fry, they are going to go to the Northern Borough and Raphael Cemetery. Just to give an idea of where people frequent when they are on task and on duty. And then, what else did he say there? Leonard and Royale. Royale is the lady with the black hair, and she seems like she's not interested in Leonard at all. So, yeah, so Leonard over there swirling his wine around like he's a Draculian vampire. Leonard and Royale, Latrice Royale, are going to stay at Blackthorn. Okay, so they're staying there. So they're there when Klein has the moment with the gate. Okay, and keep watch. And Leonard's like, absolutely. And so then Klein's like, did you forget about me? What's interesting is I like that, Klein kind of is like, come on, Captain, aren't you going to assign me a task? And Leonard's like, hey, just keep in mind, it's the thing with nightmares. He's like, they get a little bit forgetful. What's interesting is that the way that Leonard talks about how nightmares' unique style makes them forgetful, I get a little worried because if Leonard advances to nightmare, does that mean he's going to get forgetful? Because he seems very, on task, and he seems very, on it. So I'm kind of like, is he going to get forgetful? That seems rather dangerous. Maybe he doesn't want to advance beyond the poet. I don't know. I love the way he looks at Klein, though. Seriously, reality and dreams intertwine, and it's difficult to distinguish between the two. If one day the captain remembers everything, we'll know something is very wrong. That seems ominous and foreshadowing. Don't worry about that, y'all. So he puts Klein in charge of, we're going to put that on here, because we have an artifact to note, in charge of the Chanis Gate. And that is where the Antigonus family notebook is. It is there as well. So he's like, whatever you do, don't open the gate. He's like, whatever sounds you hear, don't open it. So it sounds like they've had artifacts alongside with the notebook at the same time, which is crazy. So then he said 10,000 words minimum, which is crazy. I'm not going to write that on whiteboard, Coon, but a 5,000 word essay is about a page and a half, typically. Maybe closer to 2 pages. So 10,000 words, writing almost a 5-page essay for a performance review is pretty wild. And he's like, what? Performance reviews? So yeah, we have all these chairs. And then Klein's like, why are there so many performance reviews? So he's the animation was so fluid and smooth for that there. So we have Elliot's kidnapping, Bieber going berserk, and I wrote it down here. We had here, there has been someone behind the scenes influencing. They've taken Mr. Azek's son's head, Tenno's head, which we saw at the end of this episode, so we know that kind of where that is. And then there's been these fateful coincidences. The fateful coincidences being Elliot's kidnapping, Bieber's disappearance, and then Vincent using the magic mirror of dark divination. So, and we've obtained leads through that has led us to the Antigonus family notebook. So yeah, from there, that's when Klein hears the gate opening. And, you know, this series has a tendency to have some horror elements to it. It's creepy enough. Because he goes to spy on it, and look, I don't like clowns. I don't like puppets. For a second, I don't know why I thought it was Dally there, but for a second I thought, well, maybe it's like someone coming. I didn't realize for a second, I thought, well, maybe it's not the Channis Gate. Maybe it's a different date. Maybe Dolly is coming out to see him. No, it's not Dali, it's Dolly. And that thing is actually quite terrifying. Let me get a close-up on it. Yeah, no. It's like Raggedy Ann meets Jack Skellington. Absolutely not. So he freaks out from that. And then luckily Leonard and Royale show up. And what do they say there? We see God, that's so freaking creepy. Why is that so creepy? Come on, Annabelle. But it like gives something to him. It gave a document out to him or it held out a document before it disappeared. So I don't think he got anything from it, right? We'll go back to that. Yeah, okay. So it is sealed artifact 30625. Okay. I am assuming that I can't remember what the clown artifact number was, but the sealed artifact 3 is the lower number, so that means it's not as dangerous as like the one that they used earlier on in the season. So yeah, they're like losing control while guarding the Channis Gate is grave for a watchman. So they were afraid that Klein was potentially going to lose control. I feel like Leonard is very cautious and watching Klein. I feel like he's concerned, but I also feel like he knows something's going on because we've seen him in the shadow kind of interact with Klein. I feel like he knows something's going on. He trusts Klein, but he feels like maybe Klein is messing with things he shouldn't be. And so he's just kind of like cautious about all. That's probably why he was like all about staying back there at the castle to watch. And he says the on-duty Nighthawks disappeared and perished without a trace. So with this whole gate thing, there has been a lot of Nighthawks that have died watching it. Now, Dunn has a lot of faith with Klein, but that still makes me worried. Makes me nervous just a wee bit. They lag. And so he does the poem to try to figure out what is going on, and that's when Neil shows up. I want to make note. We'll make note before Neil shows up and we find out that everything's actually okay, that they don't get fancy pistols. They did not get fancy pistols like our boy Klein, but that's okay. We can't say. I was really worried that Neil was like possessed or that something had happened, but instead he's like, the Channis Gate opened briefly and he said, I've had these constipation problems, so I did this ritualistic magic. And that's when Royale's like, please be careful doing ritualistic magic, especially for common. I feel like they all think that maybe old Neil relies too much on the ritualistic magic, which relying too much on your abilities is something that gets talked about in this episode that we're going to need to take note of. So we're going to have to get into that. But yeah. So he's like, okay, there's no abnormalities after the recital. So everything's fine. This line here, where he says, you're still our trustworthy companion. Again, I feel as if Leonard is like, he said this before. He has said this many times at this point. He's like, as long as you're trustworthy, Klein, we're all good. But the moment you're not, he's like, you're not my enemy until you're not trustworthy. And the thing that's kind of scary about all of this is that Zhou transmigrated into Klein's body. So anything that Klein was up to with the Antigonus family notebook before Zhou transmigrated, that might come back to bite him later on with Leonard and the Nighthawks. And then Zhou is going to have to, like, you know, is Zhou going to have to reveal that he's transmigrated there and he's not actually Klein? Like, how is that going to work? So it's setting up some ominous foreshadowing, and I don't know. And they're like, did you suspect I wasn't? And they're like, it's standard procedure. Yeah. He's like, from your description, it really was the misfortune cloth puppet. So this artifact is very aptly named, the misfortune clothed puppet. Well, that's ominous. I was hoping that old Neil would explain the artifact, but he didn't. So, we didn't get a middle card. We didn't get a mid-episode card this week. Did we get one last week either? I don't know if we did or not. That's what was missing. I was like, we don't have OPs, so what was missing this week? We didn't get a mid-episode card. How about that? It's been decades. It's never displayed traits of being alive. Ooh. So then it suddenly came to light, and to lure the watchman of the gate, it can only mean one thing. There's only been one new sealed artifact placed with it, and that's the Antigonus family notebook. So we want to make note that the Antigonus family notebook, and I'm going to move this pin over here, has maybe the ability to be affecting sealed objects. I mean, the notebook itself is connected to the seer pathway, so they can use divination. So, Okay, and then we get the title of this episode, which I wanted to see what if I'm remembering correctly, what it actually was. Yep, Antigonus family. Oh man, I want to get back to the episode title. Dang it. And so we go back to 1 month earlier. Right? Correct? Am I right on this? 1 month earlier? Everything's all starting to connect together. So yeah, so then we have our club meeting. Or maybe, I don't think this was 1 month earlier. I think we're going back to the club meeting. We're back in the present. And Klein is meeting with Audrey and Algiers. And he's gotten some diary entries from Audrey, who has connections. Alger just cracks me up because Alger is so infatuated with the Fool. It's kind of hilarious. I kind of love it. Yeah, so, and then Audrey notices Mr. Fool can really read the drawing like Roselle's secret texts. Yes, he can understand them because they're written in Chinese. So, and she's like, oh, I was too reckless. I was too foolish. I shouldn't have dared to observe Mr. Fool. Indeed. I need to thank my lucky stars that I haven't angered him. Well, so, okay, on July 14th, I saw that mysterious man, Mr. Zaratul, again. So, here's something else I noticed here, okay? So, we had the seer pathway. Klein had suicide by gunshot, and Zhou migrated into Klein's body. He was influenced by Emperor Roselle's diary to choose a seer pathway. Emperor Roselle had met with Zaratul, who was the leader of the Secret Order. The Secret Order is looking for the Antigonus family notebook. We're going to get into it. It's all starting to connect together, but I met with that mysterious man, Zaratul, again. And he's like, he was a descendant of the Zaratul family of the 4th epoch. Okay, so I'm going to write down here 4th epoch, and that's around the time that all of the, it's the age in which all the gods and goddesses were starting to get recognized in this. He says he leads an organization, the Secret Order. Yes, we have found that out through previous. And he tells me his sequence 9 was seer. Lower level sequences have to act strictly to digest the potions. And, what does he say there? To digest their potion, steal a dangerous sealed artifact. The relic of the Antigonus family. So we think that is the family notebook, which is the relic, we think. I asked him for more details, and he just smiled at me, which seems pretty ominous in itself. To hell with this. Once I'm a high sequence beyonder, I'll beat up every seer I come across, which is pretty hilarious. So we are assuming that maybe Mr. Zartel is a seer as well. A high-level seer, perhaps? And Klein's just like, oh, great Emperor. You look at you. You kidder. So Klein's like, well, good job. Good job, Audrey. Glad you found those diary pages. And she's like, I'm feeling a lot of progress in digesting my potion. When will I fully digest the spectator potion? And so Klein just uses basically what he learned from the notes, saying it could be a month, it could be half a year. I really like the way that they both reacted to this information, though. Like, she's like, oh, wow, it could happen in only a month. And meanwhile, Alger's like, it could take up to half a year. Like, they both have different reactions of, like, one's super positive and one's super negative about it. Or one's more optimistic, one's more pessimistic. So I thought that was interesting. So let's talk about the spectator pathway real quick, because I have some thoughts about that in relation to this story. Spectator pathway, y'all can't see it very well because I'm blocking where I've wrote on right Coon, but essentially, I want to make sure y'all can hear me back this far. So essentially, how this works is that at the core, it is psychological manipulation and dream intervention. Who uses dreams? A lot of the sleepless. So I'm like, it feels like a lot of these pathways are contrast to other pathways. Like, they're designed to be like the opposite and the counterbalance to that. So essentially, she could be really effective against somebody like Dunn, which is crazy because he, you know, forces people to go into dreams and enters dreams. Well, she could do dream intervention and psychological manipulation. If Dunn is super forgetful, she could manipulate that. Like, if she got strong enough, she could manipulate that. Which I'm not worried about Audrey per se. I'm more worried about the secret order dudes that are already at the psychiatrist level. I'm worried about them because they would be able to do that as well. That's what I'm worried about. So basically, a spectator has exceptional mental strength. Good for Audrey. She'll probably need it. They have keen observation skills. And they can glimpse the real thoughts and thus subtly influence and secretly guide. I love that illustration of her like going over the masks with the red threads, and secretly guide events to unfold in the direction they desire. So by kind of knowing what people are thinking, she can kind of manipulate, she can kind of gaslight them and lead them to what she wants them to think. That's pretty crazy. Essentially, they are a detached spectator. They observe actors in mundane society. They use the subject's expressions, gestures, speech, etc., their speech habits, and subtle subconscious movements that they are unaware of. So they basically kind of like psychologically analyze you without you knowing it, which is pretty crazy, right? So also the fact that Susie, the dog, I want psychiatrist Susie. Give me psychiatrist Susie. I want this dog to be able to have the ultimate. I want this dog to become a deity through the spectator pathway. Can we make that happen? Even if Susie just remains a spectator, that's pretty crazy. I want this dog to influence people. So then if you become a telepathist, a telepathist observes deep into mysticism, so such as aura and the ether body. They can combine, and the two can accurately grasp the human mind, which is pretty interesting. And then also, once you can directly see the target's emotional color and aura, reading their shallow thought levels. So all this spirit vision that Klein has access to, a telepathist has a lot of access to it as well. So here's the thing. It's kind of cool, but like the spirit channeling, we'll talk about it. It's kind of connected to the spirit channeling as well. I love how these are all kind of interweaving amongst each other, but they are distinct. And then if you become a psychiatrist, Old Neil was a little bit close to the best on that one. They were like, you have something with awe and frenzy, whatever that is. That's crazy. That not explaining that is crazy. And then psychological cues, placates, telepathy. So you can be a mind reader. Why not? I wonder if that's going to lead to like telekinesis. There's so many options. There's so many options of where this could go. I don't know. We'll talk about spirit channeling in a minute. But anyway, so Audrey actually can have a pretty cool ability, to be quite honest. But yeah, so Alger's like, I have no further questions, Mr. Fool, but I've heard rumors of a Sequence 8 listener from the Aurora Order. So Aurora Order. So the Aurora Order, we have Alger saying here, there's something about a Sequence 8 listener. We're going to see what pathway that one is for. I've got the list over there. I think I've heard of listener, so I'm going to have to look at that. And what pathways are with the Aurora order. I've gotten it on Conspiracy Board Sama, so when I'm done with this episode, I'll go look for that and add it to the notes. Okay. Is seeking the holy residence of the true creator. So we're going to put on here, seeking holy residence. Are they wanting to be like a vessel? Seeking holy residence of the true creator. Or, as Klein calls them, which that's going to be interesting, the fallen creator. And I'm like, oh, just change the deity's name, Klein. Just touching the sun wasn't enough. Because, yeah, so Klein talks about they're like the true creator. And he's like, many hidden organizations believe that the creator did not fully die and instead left behind a core, which is the true creator, which is the little hanged upside down, the hanged giant, which it's so crazy. So we're getting into tarot cards and they reveal, I don't know why I didn't make the Hanged Man association earlier, because like the card of the Hanged Man was created by Emperor Roselle using the true creator as a reference. So basically, this is getting interesting because he's pointing out the tarot cards and saying that they came from Roselle, which in my mind, I'd imagine that Roselle maybe knew about tarot cards in the real world. And when he got transmigrated here, he was like, oh, let me just make up these tarot cards. And then people started associating them with some of the divine gods. I don't know how many tarot cards there are. I have to look that up real quick. How many tarot cards are in a deck? There are 78. Oh, but the major arcana, there's 22. 22 oracles, 22 pathways, 22 tarot cards. I know you all have talked about this previously in the comments. Okay. Oh, shit. Okay. That seems like it's all connected. There's 22 in the major arcana, which ties to the pathways and ties to the oracles. I was joking. I was like, there's 22 oracles in Mr. Z. Are they all named A, like letters like A, B, C? Why aren't there 26? No, not necessarily. They could just, Mr. Z could just be a name, which makes me think more and more. I wonder if Mr. Z that's helping Vincent out is like a descendant of Zaratel, who's the creator of the Secret Order. But then why would he be working with the Aurora Order? Well, maybe they're trying to combine them together. The Aurora Order believe in the true creator. The Secret Order, what do they believe in? Do they believe in the true creator as well? Are they connected? But yeah, so I'm wondering if each of the main tarot cards relates to a pathway. And if that's the case, then does the Fool relate to the Seer pathway? Because that's what Klein picked. If that's the case, then does the Sailor pathway lead to the Hanged Man? It would be crazy if like sequence 1 of every pathway was the tarot card. If like the Fool was, which doesn't seem like it makes sense because you go from like Seer to Clown, but Clown is connected to Jester, which is connected to a Fool. And so that would kind of make sense. And then Magician is tied in there. That would kind of be pretty freaking badass, actually. I don't know how it's all going to work out, but that'd be kind of cool if all of the pathways tied to the tarot cards in the end. But just because Alger chose the Hanged Man, now I'm very curious and suspicious of Alger, because if the Hanged Man is not connected to the Sailor pathway, which it might not be, then why did he choose the Hanged Man? Is he a believer of the true creator because he chose the Hanged Man and knows so much about its connection to the true creator? I'm very curious now. He says, have I said anything incorrect, Mr. Fool? And Klein's like, nope. And then he's like, I'm more inclined to call him the fallen creator. And Alger's just like, fallen? This deity's renaming other deities? What's happening? That's such blasphemy. But he's so bold to say it. I'm like, Klein, why are you getting close to the sun again? This I feel like sometimes Klein gets a little, zealous because this fog is protecting him. I'm like, sir, we need to be very careful. And you're not being very careful. I'm like, ah. So yeah, calls him the fallen creator. As expected of Mr. Fool, he's incisive when evaluating the true creator. Time for a grammar lesson today. What does incisive mean? Oh, very direct and sharply focused. Interesting. Gets to the heart of the matter without unnecessary fluff. Well, no, Klein ain't got time for fluff. This is very true. Okay. And so he thanks him for his guidance and like beyonders who worship the true or fallen creator. He says they tend to lose control more often than non-worshippers. So that's good to know. That is important to know. So we find out that the true, I'm just going to put true because it's more well known at this point. True creators, the worshippers of those are more likely to lose control. Okay, interesting. Again, there's lots of things that are being said in this episode that are very ominous, and I don't like them. I'm like, some of this is really ominous, and I don't know what to think about it, but I'm like, ugh. So they're like, how do we pay you? And he's like, well, give me more of Roselle's secret diary, or look at this shot of him. Look at what the guy's shit-eating grin. Like, sir, excuse me, sir. He's just like, well, you could get me more diary pages. This freaking man. There are times where I'm like, Klein is so innocent and sweet, but then he gets in this fog and he gets arrogant. And I'm like, my dude, excuse me. You nearly died like last episode. He's like, information about the Antigonus family notebook. You know what? For Alger saying he knows nothing about the Antigonus family, he knows enough that we learned stuff today about them. They possess an eerie, terrifying pathway. And the family's history can be traced back to the third epoch, the Cataclysm epoch. Okay, so I'm going to add to my notes over there that the whole thing with the Antigonus family is that they're tied to the third epoch. Okay, we had the idea of this eerie pathway, which Klein believes is the seer pathway. They're tied to that. And so he says there's the fourth, the epoch of the gods, the Antigonus, Ammon, and Abraham families. So we learn about some more families. We learn about Antigonus, the triple A's, y'all. Antigonus, Ammon, and Abraham. As there's like blood cascading down this throne. So basically, they supported the Blood Emperor in his quest to form the Tudor Empire. Okay, so they supported the Blood Emperor. Well, that's terrifying. Okay. Sure. I'm sure we're going to learn more about that as we go. And at the end of the fourth epoch, the Evernight goddess destroyed the Antigonus family. Okay, let's talk about that real quick. So I wrote down on here, on Notebook Chan, that we have here that the eerie frightening pathway we think is the seer pathway. And so the Antigonus family were destroyed by the hand of the Evernight goddess. But they have this hidden treasure that we think might be at the ruins of the peak of Mount Hornatius. And that's what this is all about. So here's my theory based on what Klein has been theorizing. I think the Antigonus family notebook has all the formulas for all the pathways. It has the complete seer pathway. Because if you notice, the seer pathway is the one pathway of the Nighthawks that is not complete. They have all the sleepless. We've got the corpse collector, but we don't have the seer. I think that's because of two reasons. I think one, because when they destroyed the family of the Antigonus family, they lost the notebook that has all the sequences in it. And that's what the Secret Order wants to find, because the Secret Order are full of seers that probably want those pathways. So they're looking for it. And the clown was part of that order. So they were trying to find it. That's what I think. But for right now, that may change. Subject to change. But here's the thing. I think the other side of it is that the seers, we've established that the seer pathway is maybe one of the strongest pathways in the entire series, because Roselle thought you should be a seer if you want to be powerful. If the Evernight goddess destroyed the Antigonus family, it's probably because they were too strong and the Evernight goddess didn't want a seer to like get to sequence 1, because that would be too much. The Fool. So pity the Fool. So I feel like that's, which all of this is very advantageous to Klein being a seer, because if he gets the family notebook and finds the potions in it and the sequences, then I mean, but what are they going to do about it? Like even Dunn was like, oh, well, you have to get approval from, you know, the church and the organization and everything. I'm like, are they going to give approval to give Klein like all this power or potential power when their own deity that they worship tried to destroy it? That's going to be interesting. And is that going to be pushing Leonard to think he's betraying them? That's going to be interesting. So anyway, I love this tapping that's like literally like Klein just trying to tap as he's trying to think through it. And it sounds so ominous, like this big do, 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 do. I love that. That was such a good moment. But yeah, he's like, that's all. I've got to think about all this. I love that Audrey and Alger are blue and red. Their colors, it's great. And so he's like, the Antigonus family was destroyed by the Evernight goddess. What's the relic that Zaratul and the Secret Order wanted the Emperor to steal? If it's not the notebook itself, it's probably something the notebook reveals, like one of the potions. The Secret Order has the seer pathway. Does that mean I could obtain subsequent potion recipes from them? Probably. Yes. Is it the notebook? I like the Klein's like, okay, we need to calm down. Azek mentioned there was a lot of coincidences. So where are we doing this? And so he goes through the clues that we've looked on here. We've talked about that. He's like, I didn't see anything strange in my previous divinations. So what is the true cause of Elliot's kidnapping? And he's like, who's behind all this interference and what's their goal? Then he sees the notebook. He's like, was Elliot's kidnapping plotted to give me a lead on the notebook? So somebody's behind the scenes. The question is, one of the biggest mysteries so far in all of this that we have to consider is what was Klein Moretti's role before Joe? Before Joe transmigrated into his body, he shot himself for a reason. And we've not been able to figure out exactly why. We've gotten little hints and clues here and there, but it's not been concretely established why he committed suicide. So Klein has tried to figure this out, but has not had any proper leads and nobody else really knows about it. So someone that's trying to lead Klein to the notebook, the question is, does that person know that Joe has transmigrated into Klein and he's leading him to the notebook to try to like figure out what his deal is? Or is the person trying to give Klein all these leads to lead him to the notebook someone that was working with him in the past, or that somebody that knows he was looking for it and knows his connection to Welsh? That's the thing. We don't know how deep Klein was in all this. He was in it deep enough to kill himself, but we don't exactly know why they're still trying to lead him to it. What does it all mean? These are all very valuable questions. He's like, it's the same as the last divination. So Iron Cross Street, Daffodil Street, which is where he lives, Blackthorn. I can't interpret this. Is it because my spirituality isn't enough to get a clearer divination result? He's like, maybe I should prioritize my advancement. I've been interpreting divinations. I've been following their guidance. I've maintained a fearful respect of fate. Well, except that one time he touched literally a sun god, but that was, you know, he didn't know that's what it was. He's remained humble for the most part, except at some of these table readings. But my digestion's at a standstill. So then he's like, what else can I do? And he's like, I should get the lead to the clown potion and maybe I can go from there. That one shot of him at the table where there's like this big shadow behind him, that's creepy. Don't know what to think about that. So meanwhile, he's like, I'll just practice my divination skills until then. Bieber's corpse is terrifying. That's so grisly and gnarly. Nope. So there's a glowing brain. There's two things there that we need to note about the corpse. So get on this. So with Bieber, there was a glowing brain. And then with the clown, there was this like Gem of blood. What is that? What does that have to do with anything? Are these sacrifices? Are these things that need to be sacrificed to get certain things to happen? I don't understand. And yeah, Welch and Vincent. And what were they doing about the notebook? How do I get the clown recipe from here? What's with the brain thing and the red orb of blood? Yeah, and who is this person? We find out he's serious. Meanwhile, I'll go back to the divination club, and we have Miss Christina. So she shows up. Yeah, we just know her as Christina. She is all we need to know her as, is Christina. But she is connected to this one guy that's going to be very important. So Lanavis. We get Lanavis here. Lanavis, we'll put Sirius down here. Sirius was, he did. I don't think we learned. I think he was a suppliant. Yes, a suppliant, which is part of the Aurora Order, right? Or, yes, I'm going to, again, have to look at Conspiracy Board Sama, because to see, like, where these people are getting, which pathways go with what thing. So, yes. But yeah, Lanavis named as a suspect in the iron ore investment case in the Hornatius Mountains. So, he was where they potentially think that the hidden treasure of the Antigonus family is. Which, heck, the notebook could reveal where the treasure is. The notebook could have a map in it, like a treasure map or something that could lead them to the artifacts that are on the Hornatius Mountain. Could be. Yep. And he's like, okay. Klein's like, well, this is interesting. People invested over 10,000 pounds. He's like, so they've spent some money into this. He's like, you would not only need a portrait of him with some very detailed information. And she's like, would a child work? This is my niece, Magos. So then we have her niece, which I'm feeling bad for Magos. Magos, I'm not feeling too good about. So what does she say here? She says, neither of us worship the Lord of Storms. Yeah. Oh, because that was his fiancée. Okay. So she was to wed. Okay, so Christina was going to be Levinus's sister-in-law. We don't worship the Lord of Storms, and we don't believe in chastity before marriage. So she's like, yeah, we were kind of screwing around before getting married. But Levinus ran off with all of our savings. Well, that's no good. And the debt collectors came looking for him. We have to find him. So yeah, Klein quickly discerns that Levinus was a pretty big scumbag. He got his fiancée pregnant and then took all the money and ran. And he's like, that doesn't seem good. He's like, well, it'll take a few months before you have this baby. And then this woman was just ready to, she would have been, like, that was her niece. So Christina was willing to take her niece to go get this baby, like, basically aborted so that they could go and do divination on it. That's crazy. No. Although Magos seems to have done something just as horrifying a month earlier. That's when they performed whatever they did on the baby. Oh my God. So yeah, and then we have Magos that 1 month earlier, I'm running out of space already on Whiteboard Coon, and I didn't even have that much with Old Neil. This is crazy. Yeah. And Klein's like, no, let's not do anything drastic. And so Magos is like, the child is not scum like the dad. We're not going to do anything to the babe. Every day he only kicks gently and even hums and whistles to soothe me to sleep. And Klein's like, that's not how fetuses work. Klein's like, kicking? Yeah, babies kick. That's fair. They don't hum and whistle. That seems a bit supernatural. I don't know how I feel about that. He's like, is something going on with her? Then she runs out distraught. Having the child of a fraud will put you on a thorny path. Well, I think that girl is already on a thorny path. And I love our divination club receptionist. She's like, praise the lady. Let's not get into anything crazier than this. But yeah. It's like, I thought that you would be here tomorrow, Mr. Moretti. He's like, I had a dream. And so she recognized this man as someone talking to Mr. Vincent a month ago. Okay, let's also point out that a month ago, he was talking to Vincent. a month ago. So all this was going down. All this is starting to add up, and I don't like it. Yep. A seer's dream may very well be a hint from the gods. Well, they all seem to be somewhat connected, don't they? Just like Madame Force's novel. I love this woman. She's great. I love that if she were in the modern world, she'd be into true crimes. She'd be reading all the mystery novels. She'd be into everything. She'd be listening to all the podcasts. She's wonderful. I love her. I'm like, Klein, do not make fun of her liking whodunits. Like, let her. She might be of help to you later, sir. Madame Force's detective stories. The murderers often hidden in plain sight. Aha. So let's put this over out here to the side that we have Madame Force's. Her book is called Stormwind and Mountain Villa. I don't know if the title is relevant, but I feel like Madame Force's, being an author, I feel like since her novels are pretty prevalent, and this feels like a very Sherlock Holmes kind of situation, and we are in a mystery story, maybe we'll get to meet her at some point. Interesting. And she says, what did she say there? Right by the victim's side. Angelica, that's her name. Angelica's passion for whodunit burns bright. I'm like, Klein, don't be looking so skeptical. I wonder if that there is foreshadowing in itself. It says often the murderer is hiding in plain sight next to the victim's side. Well, if Klein, we would assume it'd be Welsh and the woman would be the ones that were by Klein's side before he was murdered. But I don't think that I wouldn't want to convict Melissa or Benson of being suspicious. I wouldn't think so. And we know Azek, at first I thought Azek would be the one that would be the murderer hiding in plain sight. I don't think it's Melissa or Benson. I would like to think that. So who else could it be? I don't know. I don't know who else would have been at their side other than Welch and the woman that could have been involved in it. I don't know. So they're talking about ruins. And so he goes to the Deweyville Library to get some more information. And this is where Sirius shows up looking at a bunch of history of archaeological journals to find out stuff about the Hornatius ruins. And we figure out that both Levinus and Sirius are involved in this ore investment fraud case. And it's all having taken place around the time of Vincent's death, the last time they checked out the journals, looking into things with the Hornatius. But we're going to have to go to that damn Hornatius mountain range is what's going to happen. And that's when he sees Sirius. The coincidence is adding up. He debates on whether he should confront him or not, but seriously, it just gets to the point where he jumps out the window and then loses control. So that didn't take much. That didn't take much at all. I wonder if he was already losing control and that's why he had like the coat pulled up. I wonder if that was the case. I don't know. Regardless, Klein's getting pretty good at that headshot. And then he takes him down. But he landed right before. It almost was like he had a barrier around him. He like landed before. What exactly happened there? It's like he went to go after Klein, but then he landed shortly before then. So was it just Klein's luck? Was it something else influencing it? If it was just luck, Klein literally is the god of luck and tomfoolery. He's like, well, I am the king of good luck. I'm like, sir. Okay, so he said Sirius was a secret suppliant. Okay. A secret suppliant. I was hoping that old Neil would explain what those are, but he did not. He explained the Spectator instead, which I'm not mad at, because we saw them at the end of this. I'm not mad, but he's like, his body is dissipating so quickly. He's like, I'm going to ask about the clown potion. Now, we find out from Dunn that you should not do this. He's like, Klein, you should not do this. So real quick, going over the spiritual channeling. So spirit channeling is something that a corpse collector normally does. It's their core ability of the spirit medium, which is the sequence 7. And they do spirit channeling. So they can communicate directly with spirits who have not dispersed. They can obtain desired answers through carefully crafted questions and subtle guidance. They can combine it with dream divination, which is what Klein's doing, to possibly see scenes play like a playback, which is what Klein is doing. And it says that seers and mystery priors can do this to an extent, usually through ritualistic magic, but with some difficulty. Klein did not do any ritualistic magic. He just did it. So I'm like, I'm assuming this was just him acting on his divination and that allowed him to do it, but it's very crude and it's not very effective. Like he shows there, he's talking about the clown potion, and he is part of the Aurora Order as well. And meanwhile, upside down Cyclops Jesus here is like, excuse me, get out, and kicks him back out. Which, if you're a follower of the true creator or the fallen creator, you are more likely to lose control, which is what happened with Sirius. So basically, Dally, she tried to probe Klein's thoughts in the beginning to find out how he'd killed himself or why, and she couldn't get to those memories. So that to me is foreshadowing of something yet to come that we're going to find out, like the mystery behind Klein and his OG life. But it says that they see Sequence 7 spirit mediums can converse through powerful spirituality with the spirits of the living, and through refined channeling techniques, overpower a target's will or use potions to relax a subject and extract desired info. Basically, she's going to put you to sleep to get your desired information. Or it's a shame because if Dally had been around when Vincent was asleep right before he died, she probably could have used spirit channeling to get more information, but she was out delivering the family notebook back and forth to the church. So that's unfortunate. That was a missed opportunity. Also, there's a time limit. So within the first 15 minutes of a corpse dying, that's the opportune time to get your information. But then an hour later, you start to only get superficial things and not much into depth. And then a month later, you aren't going to get much at all. So if you're Fry dissecting the corpse after like a month, it's not going to be very successful. And then it could attract the gaze. Here's the problem. That's the thing. Not the gaze like what Leonard would like, but the gaze of a corrupted spirit. And Dunn tries to tell Klein that communicating with the spirit body of a berserker beyonder is a very rash thing to do. Your good fortune could save you once or twice, but not every time. And Klein's like, sorry, I'm kind of like that type of person. He's like, I fly too close to the sun, and then I do it again. He's like, I'm not good at learning my lesson on that. He's like, I'm the protagonist. What am I supposed to do? And then Leonard's like, look, Beyonders and these evil powers share some fate. Oh, Dunn says, I feel that you, the Beyonders themselves, and these evil powers share some fateful bonds. Or Leonard says it rather. The Beyonder incidents are far more than we encounter in an entire season. Like Leonard is, and notice Leonard's in the shadows as he says this. He is suspicious. Leonard's like, something's up. He's like, I know something's up with you. And you're just not saying what it is. And even if Leonard believes that Klein doesn't fully know, he's like, isn't it odd that you showed up and all these things have been happening when we never experienced this much? You've got a lot of connections. And he's in the shadows as he says this. I think Leonard knows something's up. But yeah, so you could attract the gaze of corrupt or hidden beings if you do it. If you have too strong of a subject, like luckily Sirius is a sequence 9, he's not that tough. He lost control rather easily. But if you had tried to do this like spirit channeling on somebody much stronger, they could end up taking you over. That would be bad. Or, frequently channeling increases your chance of getting corrupted. So if you do it too much, I feel like the fact that part of Klein's digestion completing was him not relying upon his powers as a Beyonder, then that helped. In the end, I think part of it is if you use your Beyonder powers too much, you're going to end up getting corrupted, which, I don't know, Dunn uses his abilities a lot, so that makes me nervous. I like that they just poked him with the stick to fish around. I mean, that was smart. That's what they should do, but it was just funny to see the stick poke around and get things. Communication is not going to work. And then they find the letter. Dear Mr. Z, our old friends in the Aurora Order. So all 22 oracles of the Aurora Order are represented by letters. So these oracles are with the Aurora Order. Well, the Aurora Order, the Secret Order, they seem tied together. They seem tied to Roselle. All this is starting to connect in very scary ways, and I'm not excited about that. So yeah, he says, Vincent and I did not find anything else of value in the Antigonus family's notebook. Okay, so in the family's notebook, we didn't find anything of value. But what else he says? Aside from the potion recipes for seer, apprentice, and clown. Okay, so the notebook themselves has the recipes. We're going to put the Antigonus family notebook. Has the recipes for apprentice. Apprentice is its own pathway. and seer. So these are sequence 9 and clown, which is sequence 8. Okay, so that's in the notebook. That answers my question from earlier. I knew it had something to do with apprentice and seer and clown. So, but maybe they couldn't decipher some parts of the notebook, and maybe the hidden family treasure leads to all the other sequences. I don't know. And he's like, well, I just got the recipe for the clown potion, but the clown potion recipe still needs to be. I like that Dunn's like, well, that's cute that you got the clown recipe, but we got to get it approved. Dunn is like, we got to go through all the appropriate channels, sir. It must have left behind some secret treasure of resurgence. The Antigonus family did, not the notebook. As the power that holds the seer pathway, there's reason to believe this treasure is on the peak of Mount Hornatius. I'm making preparations for doomsday. That doesn't sound good. Anytime you use the word doomsday, that's usually a bad sign. That's usually a not great sign. That's usually an ominous sign. And he says, I hope to kindly receive your aid. When doomsday arrives, I'll present all of Tengen as a sacrificial sheep to the master. It sounds like they're planning a giant sacrifice, a giant spiritual ritual. They're going to sacrifice the entire city of Tengen to the true creator to try to like appease it or bring it back to life or something of that nature. And that does not bode well for anyone. The fact that it gets darker outside as they're talking about this, don't like it. Don't like it at all. The eerie, frightening pathway was the seer pathway. So basically, Klein starts to put all of this together. He's like, fateful bonds. And so what I copied down was essentially everything that he like lines out here. This is just insanity. So we have the Aurora Order as this doomsday plan. They're after the Antigonus notebook. That is the secret order is searching for the Antigonus family's relic that we think is tied to the notebook. Maybe the notebook knows where the relic is, but we think it's on the ruins at the peak of the Hornatius mountain range. And so that's all tied together. Sirius had the clown potion recipe. And then with Joe, aka Klein, he's tying this all together. So the Seers, the Antigonus family, the secret order and the Aurora Order, everything with Roselle, even the Evernight goddess, it's all coming together. Slowly but surely. And he basically retracts everything that's happened. What is hidden behind this net of fate? I'm so curious. Everything I've been through, if everything I've been through has been designed by someone behind the scenes, then the first and biggest coincidence in my fate is when Klein shot himself. So he's like, and he tries to divine the reason why he shot himself, but there's nothing there. It won't work. It was naive of me to try and rely on divination to find the truth. And that's it. So the moment he realizes that he can't rely upon divination, that's when his digestion completes. So basically Klein is ready to get the clown potion now. He is absorbed and digested everything with the seer. He's done as much with the seers as he can. He can keep being a seer for as long as he needs to be, but he's also ready to be a clown. Which is the weirdest phrase I've said all week. He's ready to be a clown. He can go to clown school. He can get his degree. He can get certified. He is ready to go now. It was a really cool sequence. I like the animation of it. And I like how, he's like, since the potion's been digested, he's like, divination is not all powerful. That's the defining acting principle. I love that he just flies around like this little spirit, which is kind of cool. Testing out his powers. I can't wait to read this in the novel. Should be fun. But yeah, he tries to get closer. I love this little shot of him in the butterflies. It felt like such like a, Quicksilver from the Marvel universe, when Quicksilver, he's like so fast and he like zooms around and he like stops and touches something in slow motion then zooms away. It felt like a Quicksilver moment. I do love the blue butterflies. That's really cool. If only Leonard could see how in tune with nature he is, he would describe it as poetic. Our dear boy Leonard. So he sees these red smokestacks and feels as if these red Mrs. Lovett Sweeney Todd smokestacks, we're going to tie that over here. Red smokestacks. I've ran out of character room, so we're just going to like tie them over here. to where I have more room. So the red smokestacks we think are where our next lead is. So there's that. Okay. And he's like, where is the person behind the scenes? That's a great question. Meanwhile, I don't know what this is. It says like something till, I don't know what that means. And the number changes 1 month prior. So we have Tenno Egger's skull. Of course we have Tenno Egger's, yeah, of course we have Tenno Egger's skull. So we find out where Tenno Egger's skull is at. It's with these guys that are probably working with the Secret Order. If Azek finds out, Azek's going to be pissed. Azek's going to be pissed you have his son's skull. Not fun. Not cool. And they put next to who we believe is Magos. I think that's Magos. And there's these 5 guys here. So one is Marauder Pathway. Oh, okay. So Levinus, we're going to put an arrow. Levinus is a sequence 8. He's in the Marauders. But his sequence 8 is the Swindler. Okay. Didn't Roselle say that if you were going to do a pathway, it was like either pick Seer or was it Bandit or Marauder? One of the two? Yeah. This looks terrifying. And then we have Hood Eugen. So Hood Eugen, which is a pretty fun name. He is a spectator. But he is a sequence 7 psychiatrist. He's like the Lord that created everything. So yeah, Levinus, this guy. So basically, Levinus, which in that shot there, he doesn't look half bad. I'm like, damn it. Okay. So did he convince his fiance to house a demon baby? That's crazy. Or was she sedated throughout all of this? Possibly. Yeah, I don't like that spirit. I don't like that spirit at all. Why you putting this spirit and why you putting Eggers? What is this? What's the degenerate nature of all things, living things? Oh, so they all like exploded? Did they just sacrifice themselves to this demon baby? Are they trying to bring, yeah, your devout acolytes pray for your coming? So basically, if we are to read this correctly, okay, so, oh, I guess they sacrificed Levinus and the 2 others. Hood did. To try to bring this guy back, because there's all this blood. And then it, like, goes into her womb, possibly? What? What? Because, yeah, it shows her, like, getting affected by it. Yeah. So essentially, were they trying to use the skull of Tenno Eggers and her and their blood to all create this ritualistic thing to possibly bring about, like, the birth of the true creator? Are they trying to, like, create a god? Like, feels like Antichrist-esque. That's, nope. None of this is good. None of this is good. None of this is a good time. And then we have this end credit scene at the very end where in the midst of, which, note to self, I am a side sleeper like Klein. But he has this dream about the Antigonus family and the hidden treasure, the nation of the Evernight ruins. Interesting. And these tentacles. The animation on Klein was really good there. He looks legitimately scared. Yeah. I forgot that scene. Why? Why did I forget that? Oh. Okay. It's because the notebook doesn't want other people to know that the vertical pupil, about that vertical pupil full of concealed symbols. And then what we see there is, I don't know what that is a symbol of. I don't know what, honestly, it kind of looks like where it's hanging down there. I'm like, is that supposed to be the Hanged Man? Is that the Aurora Order? Is it tying the notebook to the Aurora Order? So basically, the notebook, did it kind of, that's kind of crazy that Klein doesn't remember that. And the notebook just didn't want him telling anybody else about it. Is it because he's a seer and the Antigonus family notebook, like, lets seers know information but not anybody else? So yeah, that's terrifying. We don't know what's up with Magos. I'm assuming that's Magos because she's pregnant. She's the only pregnant blonde we know that would be tied to all this, and with Levinus. So, but it said it was 1 month earlier, so she's fine now. So I don't like it. I don't like it at all. So yeah, no, I hate it. Thanks, I hate it. So okay. Sure, Jan. Sure, Jan, indeed. Okay. Well, I'm very curious to see what we're gonna get next week. 8's my lucky number, y'all. The rule of 8. If you don't know about Romania Black's rule of 8, you will find out next time, because the rule of 8 is up next. And I am very excited because this series falls within the rule of 8. So I have so many questions. White Coon is just destroyed, and we shouldn't be surprised. But I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below. Please no spoilers unless you want a spoiler tag. And I hope you all have a wonderful week. My mind is blown. I am speechless, and I'm gonna wait until at least Patreon comments on episode 7 before I get into episode 8. But no guarantees I'll make it past that. So anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, I'm going to need to let my brain kind of simmer down, and then I'll be back. And we're going to talk about, oh my God, we're going to talk about episode 8 of Lord of the Mysteries. And say a prayer for me. I'll see you then, guys. Bye.